Welcome to the Intentional Household podcast. Today, we're talking about communities and the importance of being involved in a community. The reason why I even thought about this topic is because I have a new love for this place in Toronto called Othership.
I thought you were going to divorce me.
Called Othership. It is a cold plunge, sauna kind of experience. So we got here because I've been going to Othership. And at the end of the guided sessions, there is a part where everyone in that session comes together and they share something, their experience, just anything they might want to share. Every week I've gone, someone has raised their hand and talked about the importance of being involved in the Othership community and how it's had such a critical role in their lives in this point of time because they are going through something challenging in their lives right now. And it really had me reflecting about the importance of community and how everyone should be a part of a community. And when I think about myself, I generally don't see myself as being a part of community because I don't go to church, right? I just think of community being a formal setting such as church or a spiritual setting, which I am not a part of. And then I got into the communities that I am a part of and realized just how much of a role it does play in my life and how many people could benefit from being a part of a community.
So you're part of some community?
So then I asked you, Alex, I think I said, what communities are you a part of?
No, that's not what you said.
What did I
That's not
say?
what you said to me, I'm actually part of many communities. And Alex, I'm part of more communities than you. And I said, oh, really? And you're like, yes. And I'm like, name your communities. So no, this is where I want you to, this is important because we're going to give people examples. And this is kind of where the conversation stopped. Our marketing manager said, stop. This is great material. So now we're going to get into, because I think I'm part of more communities than Laura, but
okay,
clearly she doesn't. She thinks I'm a loner that sits on the couch. So I want Laura to start detailing her communities, and I'm going to detail mine so people can understand where they can get community support from. So Laura, because you also said you had endless mother communities, so I'd love to start with those, your different mom communities.
Well, I mean, I'm put on the spot here. And so it starts with, it doesn't have to be a formal community, which I've realized because you can have informal and formal communities. And so I do have mom communities. I'm not going to get into actually the specific groups right now. I just don't want to call them out right now. But I do have some mom groups that I am a part of with various moms, whether they're in the neighborhood or the school or moms that I started connecting with when I had my first child.
Okay, so I will give you this.
Okay.
You are part of more mom communities than I am part of dad communities. That is the truth. But those aren't the only communities that people are part of.
I wasn't implying that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. This is endless mom communities. I'm like, how many moms do you are you part of?
A lot.
Okay. Well, I'm part of a lot of people too.
But then there's also, I would say, we are part of a, let's say, community center type community.
Well, the club.
Okay,
we're members of a club.
We're members of a club.
There's communities within there.
Okay, and then I have some tennis groups that I would say there are a couple. I would call those communities. There are also I'm still friends with my dietitian friends, and I would say that's its own community. There is. I mean, I'm really put on the spot here. I had a whole list. I had a whole list. Oh, wives to entrepreneurs, because that is the thing. It is nice connecting with other wives to entrepreneurs.
But I think to underline the commonality of when you create these communities is you all have within specific communities, you may have different personalities. You may have different backgrounds, different experiences, but there is one uniting item that brings you all together. And within that community, you can solve problems to specific things that you're united around, but also get comfort and vent frustrations about the commonality that brings you together. And by doing that, you get strength and support, and you're able to move forward with something in your life.
Yeah, someone may have a particular need. So it could be an emotional need, whether someone's grieving and dealing with a loss or dealing with a divorce. In our workshop the other day at Strategic Coach, there was someone there who was talking about a support group for individuals who are going through divorce, which I thought was incredible. And I know of many friends who could have benefited from a divorce support group. Whether you're a new mom or a new dad, you need some sort of mentoring or coaching. Anyway, I feel like you want to get into your community. Let's hear about your range of communities that you're a part of.
See what Laura doesn't understand is she never knew the alter ego known as tags, and some of the listeners may know of the alter ego tags. So I was a very social person.
And we're talking about now, the present. Let's hear the present communities you're part of.
There, to get to the present, you got to go through the past. So I was a very social individual. Had many different groups and networks of friends and associates before I met Laura, and that was in my early 30s. And then I dedicated my life and loved it. But those communities and networks didn't go away. I'm still connected with many individuals, and this actually, a great way to talk about this is actually how you connect with communities, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of the connections that I do now, they may not be face to face, they may not be on the phone. A lot of my communication is done through WhatsApp communities.
Yeah,
and maintaining and talking to different individuals that have like-minded issues and we share a commonality with, that we gain support from and reassurance and confidence and all that kind of stuff. A lot like, especially communities are so important after going through COVID. And one thing that I'm doing, speaking of community, we have a building where we have an office space in it. And what I'm doing with that office space is I'm converting it to a co-working space. And the concept is that the space is for the ideal demographic is parents that live in the community that don't want to commute all the way to the office, but don't necessarily always want to work from home. And they're with like-minded individuals in the community, i.e. other parents with kids that are of a similar age. So it's actually creating a community. And when I ran by this concept by various networks and communities that I'm part of, they said, yeah, like COVID was tough for them, like working at home, like very isolating and not good for their mental health. And they wanted to get back to the office, but the issue with not an issue going to the office, but we talk about time constraints. And when you're a parent, especially with young kids, where you want to drop your kids off to school or pick them up after school, we're slaves to the timing of the school day. And if you want to have those moments with your children, then you have to work at home those days in order to do that, like losing a half an hour each way commuting to the office. But if you're able to not work at home, but be in a social environment that's close by, then that's something that could be attractive. So what I'm getting at is that, there are different ways that you can maintain communities, and it doesn't necessarily have to be like a phone call or in person, or those could be less frequent and all that kind of stuff. But it's important to have those.
It is, because it's a way that you really can connect with like-minded individuals in a way that you may not connect with them with close friends or family members, because everyone has different just interests, thoughts, views. So let's just, for example, I'm going to take it back to the divorce. One of my best friends went through a divorce, and we certainly talked about it, but it would have been nice, and I'm sure she did refer to some people who are divorced, because you want to deal, or you want to connect with people who have gone through the same thing. As much as I am there for her, she wants to connect with other divorcees.
Well, you haven't experienced the feelings
and
the situation, the situations that come with that.
Yeah. Or I guess other examples, grief.
Well, I was gonna say that
Yes.
like, both of us lost our fathers when we were in our 20s, and not at that time, not a lot of people had lost a family member, right?
When you're going through grief, it is nice connecting with other people who have experienced that, or even just talking to, like I had mentioned, entrepreneurial wives, because they live a different life. They get certain things, whereas let's just say your typical 9-to-5er just isn't going to understand, because they live a different lifestyle. So it's really being able to connect with those people and have those conversations, sharing those thoughts and views with someone who can't understand, doesn't experience it. And quite frankly, you might bore them. So it's really nice having that, so that you can feel seen and heard.
And it's okay to have different communities.
Oh yeah.
It should be encouraged. And think of it this way. When you were talking about this, it made me think of, my lifeline. And I'm from a small town in Northern Ontario, 3,000 people. So my community was very small then. But as you age, you have different interests and different experiences, which you may need to create new communities in order to get through, again, those experiences, if it's something that's difficult, or to expand and experience, where you have to create that new community. So as you age, experiences and interests are going to expand the communities that you'll want to be part of. So I'm going to give a family example.
Okay.
Just again, I'm jumping off the lifeline, but I'm thinking of it is my mom's husband is in a tractor forum, right? Because he loves tractors.
Yeah.
And that tractor forum attracts people all around the world. And it's an online forum that's on a website, that kind of thing. And he thoroughly enjoys that. And that's an example of a community, and he's able to enjoy that community.
Yeah.
Do you think my mom knows things about tractors?
Yep.
No. He can get in the details and enjoy himself. And so it's, if you have these interests, it's what we're trying to say. If you have a group of friends and there are some interests or experiences that you are different from that group of friends, that's okay. Go find a community to be part of that helps foster or get you through an experience. You want to be part of those communities to help foster your specific interests and and help you get through different traumatic events. It's incredibly important to seek out those things, and it's great for your mental health to foster your interests and also help you get through difficult times. And to expect 100%. That the other people know what you're going through. And we have a whole, here we go. This is great. We have a whole other podcast about expectations on Mother's Day and Father's Day, and how, if expectations aren't being met, that leads to disappointment. So to expect that certain communities you are in will share all your interests and be able to support you through all your traumatic events that you're going through is going to lead to disappointment, because their interests may not be the same as yours. And they just they have not been through the same traumatic experiences that you have. So now you're creating a situation where you're going to be leaving disappointed, and you could be creating conflict within a community that you're in, where the solution is,
Mhm.
you should just be seeking out another community. You don't need to leave that community. You can still be part of that community, because that community that you're in serves a purpose
Mhm.
that interests you, but you need to seek out other communities that also align with your other interests and other things that you're dealing with in your life. That's the root thing. Every disappointment in your life has to be dealt with unmet expectations, but it's on you as the individual to make sure that your expectations are being met. So you need to figure out why your expectations aren't being met. That's the key. Wow, I don't even think that's on the piece of paper for the show notes, but that's pretty powerful stuff.
Why do you think fewer people are involved in communities these days?
Because of COVID. It's that simple. It's because people are out of shape from community building. If you haven't built communities for 2 years, people are out of shape. They don't know how to reconnect with individuals, just like going to the gym. If I don't work out for 2 years, it's going to be difficult to get back into it. There's going to be a period of time when it hurts. It's uncomfortable to get back in shape. Same thing has to go with community building. You haven't exercised that muscle. We hadn't exercised that muscle for 2 years because we weren't allowed to build communities, or the way to build communities was altered. And now we're all out of shape, and it's difficult to get back into shape of community building because there's an uncomfortable period to regain that skill, to work that skill out. So it's actually really easy why community engagement is down. It's because people are out of community shape.
I can see how COVID played a part, but I still think it goes further back, even before COVID. I think that we have a culture right now where a lot of individuals, or let's just even say families or couples, have that culture of hyper independence where we're going to do it on our own. We don't need that community or that village to support us. It's just going to be the two of us figuring it out. So I think that is one factor there. Certainly COVID. I think certainly in Canada, or the people that I communicate with, it seems like not as many people are going to church these days. Mm-hmm. At least really my friends, a lot of people don't go to church. And so I think church played a huge role in a lot of people's lives before, and there isn't that built-in structure anymore for many of us. Again, it depends on where you live.
Well, I think what we're talking about community is, it depends on what communities you're looking at building. Here's what it is if someone's passionate and excited about something, then they will lean towards that. So I know that there are very active communities out there.
Mm-hmm.
What you have to do is to lean into people's passion and align it with their interests. So just what we talked about at the beginning of it, just talking about the many different communities. But if you're not fostering a community of like-minded people that are interested in similar things, then why would I go and participate in that? I think it's just all about, I know it's, if someone's passionate about something, they will contribute. If I'm talking, like, I love unlocking people's passions, right? Once you unlock someone's passion with something they're excited about, their body language changes, the tone of their voice changes, their facial expressions change, their energy level changes. That's what you want to do. And I can think of many successful communities. And I think also, we talk about community building just in this day and age. I'll even, the other day I was going to buy some, I was on a manhunt for chocolate coins, because I said to my kids, we're going to build a leprechaun trap. And then I had to get some treats for them because they wanted to see if they caught a leprechaun. So I'm like, I'm going to get gold coins. Now, I decided this at Sunday at 8:30 p.m. at night. So not a lot of shops are open. And that's Laura's laughing. That's typical Alex style. I'm convinced I'm going to go get gold coins. While I'm in the car, Alan Cross came on. Alan Cross is a radio programmer, but does the history of new music with Alan Cross. And Laura's like, where are you going with this? Get to the point. But it was really cool. This is why there is a connection point. But what was cool, he was talking about how you will never have the superstars today in music will never be as big as the superstars of old. You may be like, but Taylor Swift is huge. Taylor Swift has nothing on music stars of the past. And the reason is technology and the internet. Why is that? Well, with technology and the internet, you are able to subdivide into so many different cultures of music. You, as the consumer, get to pick whatever music that you're interested in. And his point was, if you're walking down the street and you ask someone to name 3 Taylor Swift songs, they may not be able to. But if you go back to the 80s and you ask people to name 3 songs by Aerosmith, or 3 songs, if we go back further, let's name 3 songs by the Beatles, you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
You want to know why? Because there were very limited ways you could actually get your music back then. So you were exposed to all of these bands. You listened to bands on the radio. That was the only way to get new music to individuals. There wasn't the internet. There wasn't file sharing in Napster. And now we have obviously Apple Music, Spotify, this kind of thing. So where I'm going with this is that with technology and the internet, you can create so many different communities because you have the ability to connect so many people, different interests. But if you go back to the 70s and 80s and 90s, how do you connect communities? Well, you actually have to physically sit down and meet the people.
Mm-hmm.
Now you don't. Now I can be part of a community sitting on my phone on WhatsApp and a specific group topic, and we can talk about specific things that are of our interests. And we're all of different backgrounds, all of different interests, but we have one specific thing that unites us, and we're talking about that specific interest. So I don't think it's a lack of participation in communities per se. It's just that there are so many different communities that we can be part of today that are very niche and specific to our interests due to technology, and allows us to, we only have so much attention, and we're able to direct our attention to specific communities.
Yeah, I suppose the setting has changed for being a part of a community.
The meeting space, I'd say the meeting space. Again, back in the 90s, the 80s, the 70s, you literally had to physically sit in a meeting space. And I have seen this transformation. COVID, April 2020. Yes, getting it right because I always mess up the dates. April 2020, I would do my real estate investing seminars, and I'd have to get in seats. And one of the biggest drags was like, oh, how am I going to convince someone to come sit, like commute somewhere? And then they always ask, where am I going to park? And now I got to convince them to come at rush hour to sit in the seat to listen to me talk about, this is why this is a great real estate investment. You should build a pension plan building real estate. Very difficult getting people in seats. COVID hit. Well, we couldn't leave anywhere. And we started using Zoom. And all of a sudden, the first webinars we did, we had to up the size of a webinar. I did a topic. I had 500 people in a room, in a Zoom room. 500 people. That's an insane number. I'm like, to say like I put on a physical event, I got 500 people in the room. That is crazy. So technology, the meeting, the idea of the meeting space has completely flipped on its head. And then with COVID, it quickly changed people's how they viewed meeting people together. Now, I do believe this, and just watching how we've done webinars and how people have adapted to that. And I don't get 500 people anymore, but also people wait for recordings. People are not as engaged in the webinars anymore. I do see that you can go back to the in-person. So going back to your answers, like, why aren't people participating in communities anymore? It was I can go to so many different communities and that are very specific to my interests, but also B, people are out of shape. But there is a craving for people wanting to get back together.
Mm-hmm. For anyone listening who's thinking, that's me, I would love to be a part of a community. I don't even feel like I'm getting that. How do you think that they can start, whether it's joining or building?
Well, I think first of all, right, because you're out of shape, right? The fallacy is like the head and the body aren't always in sync with that. In your head, you may think, hey, I can run 10K in 38 minutes. So I'm going to go run 10K in 38 minutes. And then your body feels broken the next day, right? Same thing in regards to being part of a community. You may be out of shape. Networking feels awkward for you, that kind of thing. You probably want to start with the community online or
Easy.
start creating some warm connections without meeting people in person, and then flow that into maybe an in-person meetup. Just start to work out those muscles.
I'm going to give a good example here.
Go ahead.
Of something we experienced. So our daughter, she started JK in 2021. And there was a mom in the school Facebook group who posted saying, hey, are there any kids starting JK? We are new to the neighborhood. Is there anyone who wants to meet up in the summer beforehand? And I think 3 or 4 of us families went and we met up.
I remember that. I was there.
That was our first time meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And firstly, our daughter attributes her friendship to that meetup with one of the girls there. And this group has really connected. And there are, I don't know how many families, 7 of us, of these girl JK families who, and the kids are in grade 2 now, but it's quite tight. And they were new to Toronto. I mean, she's from Toronto. They had moved to the UK, moved back during COVID, didn't know any families in the neighborhood. So she just sent this post and it helped to build this community that she's a part of. And she's very much a part of the school community. And that was the first step for them. And I thought that was incredible. And we can really, this tight group to just her making that post. But it's really as simple as that. If you aren't connected, I mean, I think that if you have young kids, that's a really easy way to start and to get to know families in your neighborhood by just connecting with, it just has to be one other family and that can open the door.
You juice the brain. Because we've talked about this before, just in general. If you're creating community, the number one most important thing is the like-minded thing that brings you all together, and sticking to what has brought you all together. Don't try to bring in other elements. What has brought you all together is some commonality. If you start bringing in other elements, that will disrupt the community. So the old adage is you don't talk about politics, money, and religion. It's okay to talk about that stuff, but don't bring that stuff to the community, because your community isn't built around that. Everyone in that community will most likely, they can come from a different religion, they can come from a different financial background, they can have different political views. And if you start debating that within the community, it's going to tear the community apart, because you all come from different positions. But you weren't there to talk about that stuff. You were there to talk about some commonality. Stick to that commonality, and you guys are going to get on great, and you're all going to grow together around that commonality, and that commonality will get bigger and better and get the support around that commonality. So, and I've seen this, stick to what keeps you together and stay away. Don't try to put in other elements in there because that's going to disrupt the community. Just focus on the specific one item that brings you all together and making that bigger and better every time.
Mhm.
So again, you're talking about it's all daughters. You've all daughters within in a community.
Mhm.
So every time you get together, you're just going to focus on how can we make the experience better for our daughters. Or I'll give an example with this community, right? So within this group of 7 families, what's a topic that can come up? Well, right now we're getting like, I want a phone. Like, so now you have that's a commonality. Every one of those girls is going to want a phone at some point. As a group, you all talk about, hey, what rules are we going to put in place, dealing with phones?
Mhm.
And then by having that community and having a group approach on this, you can have a strong unified front on how you're dealing with phones. It's a commonality.
Mhm.
It's something that you're all going to deal with across. Like, stick to those things, issues that
Yeah.
directly relate to your community. That's how you build that's how you grow a successful community. First of all, you have your topic, then you grow it by things that are going to make your community stronger and better, but only the things that relate to the community.
Yeah. Yeah. It really can bring disruption when you're bringing in another topic that doesn't really belong there. That's for another group or another community.
Yeah. And there's a community that I'm part of. It's entrepreneurial dads. And when it was first started out, it was mixing. There's an entrepreneurial aspect, and then there was the dad aspect. The issue with the entrepreneurial aspect is that we all had different businesses, and we all had different financial resources. So the commonality of talking about our businesses wasn't really there because there wasn't that much overlap being in different industries, different businesses, different scales of business. But we all had a common goal of being living a balanced life between business and being great role parents and being role models. When we took out the business side and we focused on the role model side, things blew up and blossomed. Because guess what? You're still gonna have conversations about other people, and it still will come up, but that stuff comes up on the side.
Mhm.
Like you can then have one-on-one conversations with individuals, but you unite around the commonality. But you don't put that in the middle and the focus because there's too much differences. That's if you're building a community, that's the most important thing to focus on, and inclusion as well.
Another reason why I love the community involvement is because as much as you and I can have great conversation, the two of us, there are just some things that I'm not going to talk to you about. Actually, I think there were things that I would talk to you about, and you would say, talk to Jody, your best friend. She's a good person to be talking about that. Or sometimes I will talk to you about my love for tennis, but I can see you're a little bored, but there's a place for me to be talking to my tennis community about tennis. And so that's why I think that some people, even if they're in a happy marriage, could really benefit from joining other communities so that they could have that diverse range of opinions, experiences, because just having that relationship with you and your partner, I just don't think is enough.
Absolutely. Like your job as a spouse and partner is to support the other individual. But it's not my job to have the same interests as you.
No.
It's my obligation. It's my obligation to help you foster your interests and to help you feel passionate about what you're doing. That's my obligation. And to allow you to feel that. But this goes expectation and disappointment. For you to expect me to have the same interests as you is going to lead to disappointment. And it's not even going to do a benefit to you because I'm not going to be able to help you grow your passion because I don't share the same passion. You need to be around people. This is everyone. You need to be around people that have the same interests and same passions as you.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean like, oh my God, my spouse doesn't have the same passion as me. That's terrible. We're doomed. No, your relationship with your spouse, that there, you have a commonality that you share. There's a commonality right here that you share. That's important. That's great. But you have other communities that are some passions that you have that you can go to them that are going to help foster and create the community around that. And it's going to make you a better individual. We've talked about before how important it is. And the number one person to take care of is you.
Mm-hmm. It is.
And once you're satisfied, the great thing is then you have extra, then you're fulfilled, and you can then go to your spouse and help your spouse feel fulfilled. And then after that, then you can help your children feel fulfilled, and it just grows and grows and grows from there.
Mm-hmm.
So absolutely, for a successful marriage, you should be seeking out other communities to help unlock your passion and support your passion, because it's going to make you a better partner and spouse. But to expect that your spouse and partner is going to have all the same interests as you and foster those, to have to share in them with you, that it's going to create disappointment, because everyone is different.
Yep.
So if you have a passion, go seek a community that's going to support that passion. It's going to fulfill you and make you a better person, will make you a better spouse and partner. Speaking of community, that's what we're trying to grow with Intentional Household. Our community is surrounding ourselves with people that want to live intentionally. So we want you guys to follow us on Instagram, subscribe to our podcast, because we want to foster a community of people living intentionally. And we're going to continue to give out ideas, habits, tips, bring in experts on how that you can continue to grow and live the intentional life.
We'd love to hear your questions, your comments, so we can really help to foster our intentional household community.